Good morning to you. Today is Wednesday, the 11th of February, 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. Yesterday, I covered capital structure and the funding asset, so treating capital structure as an asset. And today is what happens after you fund the plan. So, can you deliver it when the world behaves badly? Not the things are against you in a way or how. And so this is happening all the time. So through the asset lens, today is the portfolio and footprint asset. And footprint assets are the strategic geographical layout of your production facilities, offices, including factories, warehouses, and supply chain networks, designed to optimize your costs, efficiencies, and market proximity. So the portfolio and footprint asset is the difference between we have operations and we have options, right? So let's see three problems to consider here. Number one is many footprint programs optimize only for costs. That works until the first disruption, at which point you learn the footprint was efficient but fragile. So the UK resilience framework is a blunt about the need to anticipate and adapt. And with this problem also is a solution right away, which is the UK resilience framework. So you already have a template, a framework to anticipate and adapt. So it's free and is available online. So that problem pretty much is answered itself. Problem number two, boards are expected to think clearly about the principal risk and how internal controls respond. So not treat resilience as a nice to have thing. And problem number three is an example that I took from a London Stock Exchange company I'm following. This company have holds or multiple holds assets and holdings, but progress still depends on external constraints and sequencing across the sites, which is exactly how fragility hides. So they do extraction in one place, they do processing in another place, they do manufacturing in another place. So it's like all the sequencing of things before they can produce something that they can sell. So if something changed there, for example, the motorways or the train tracks are disrupted for in a way of how the whole sequencing already have to be scrambled, sorry, not scrambled, but actually the whole sequencing, all the on-demand manufacturing start to get jeopardized because actually one single disruption create a multiple knock-on effects in how they plan the things. In other words, imagine a cost-optimized footprint is a racing bike or bike racing. So resilient footprint is racing the same race, but with a car and a spare tire. You see, the difference is very, very, very large. So the footprint, remember, are your strategic geographical layout of production facilities, including factories, warehouses, and supply chains networks, and all designed to optimize cost, efficiency, and market proximity. But it's not only for manufacturing. We are going to see other examples later on. And this is what I think is a missed opportunity. Resilience is not only a defense position, it is a growth lever because it lets you keep moving when competitors pause. You see, that's a beautiful thing to have there. When everybody is panicking or having problems, you continue because you have options. And as a board advisor, what I would propose to consider in this case, number one, use the National Risk Register as a broad checklist for stress test. So not because every risk hits you, but because it forces you to name your dependencies. And this is very beautiful because it's already there. So you can download it and try to and test it. Number two, build switches. And here's the key, not plans. A switch is a pre-decided alternative route, an alternative supplier, an alternative site, an alternative that work method. So this is what resilience action plans are pushing towards in practice. So it's not just something that in paper, it's something actually you have an alternative in place for many of the moving parts of your organization. And make the footprint measurable. So one KPI per dependency, so single source exposure, whether the approval leads times, critical skills concentrations, and operational handover readiness. So what had to happen from this when this is breaking for operational handover to the next one and be ready to be active again. So tied to risk reporting so it does not fade. So you cannot have a plan in the binder. It's something that actually had to be tied to a risk reporting. So actually you have that alive all the time. It's like a fire alarm. You have to check it every single time to make sure that it works when you need it. So examples that I promised you without the sector baggage. So this listed company that I mentioned has a value spread across multiple holdings and projects. And on paper, that is diversification, as they call it. But in practice, the board question is the following. Can we move value from potential to delivered without every step relying on a single regulator, contractor, piece of equipment, permissions, licenses, or internal experts? Sometimes you have internal experts, and if this person is gone, you have a problem. So the same question applies to software firms, for example, that rely on a single cloud architecture. And you may argue about this all day, but actually, at the end of the day, you boil it down to a single cloud architecture. In terms of manufacturing, relies on one imported component, very tricky. In terms of service firms, relied on one rainmaker, if you may. So a maintenance company that have a big contract with an insurance company that hold the portfolio properties or a pension fund, whatever is the case. If they have this one big customer, also is a bottleneck in your asset footprints. So and this applies to any group with one side, one route, one key customer, one key supplier. So you can there look into your own company and say which are the biggest dependencies that we have and how we can make switches. And remember, switches is things actually you can replace when other things fail. So resilience is a simple or simply reducing the number of single points of failure and then providing you with options before you need them, right? Like the fire alarm. So why does reducing the single point of failure approach matters? For three things. First is outcomes, second, differentiators, and the third is risk reduction. In terms of outcomes, you produce a portfolio and footprint asset map that shows your options, your single points of failures, and the first three switches to build. And remember, the switches are pre-decided alternative routers, alternative suppliers, alternative sites, alternative routes to market, or alternative work methods, or expanding to other teams or companies that you serve if you're, for example, a maintenance company. In terms of a differentiator, you align resilience to the board's risk and control obligations, so it becomes governance, not an operations hobby. And I mentioned hobby, sorry for the word, but sometimes it looks like a binder somewhere, but instead had to be tied to the risk and control obligations. And in terms of risk reduction, you base stress testing on the UK's own risk framing. So scenarios feel grounded rather than speculative. So it's not a narrative, oh yeah, we have a plan. No, it's something actually grounded and you have already a framework where you can compare and test your assumptions. So one action you can take home today, and it's doable in 30 minutes or less. List your top 5 dependencies and write one switch. So the 5 dependencies and which are the switches for each that you could activate within 30 days or less. Excellent. So let's pause it here for today and reconvene tomorrow, because tomorrow, probably you remember yesterday we mentioned runway when the capital, what is the runway of your capital. Today I spoke about dependencies, and tomorrow I will go further with the invisible blockers, the compliance and methodology assets that decides your real timetable, right? So you also mentioned, we mentioned yesterday that runway is part of the timetable because actually is how long you can run your operations with the capital, but also compliance and methodology assets do the same thing. So if you are a company in the UK or somewhere in the world that is sitting in a board or an executive team that look for a B team, looking for your portfolio on footprint asset mapping, set up a 30-minute call with me so I can understand your position and how an independent international advisory board looking from the outside in your company can help you and your team without stepping on your toes, without a traditional consulting overhead, which is very expensive, and without this public theater that say, oh, we need to hire somebody to do this and we cannot commit for a long term. We need something in the 6 months, 12 months, 18-month period of time, and then disengage. So have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, and bye-bye.